Well, are booster mandates next? And how does this fight over boosters impact our military force strength? So we're going to discover that here on this edition of the Military Wire. And we're also going to unpack, have all branches of our government become corrupt to the point that by instituting and requiring these mandates, um, how does that impact us as a nation? So we're going to unpack that. So joining us today with this rather controversial subject is the somewhat controversial Larry Klayman, who's the author of the new book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. Mr. Klayman is also the founder and former chairman of the successful nonprofit foundation Judicial Watch, and he's the current chairman of Freedom Watch. Larry, welcome to the Military Wire.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. With regard to the controversy, I'm controversial because I put my money where my mouth is. I just don't talk. I've taken actions against all the very powerful people in this country for the most part, and the left doesn't like that, so they push back. And I'm willing to take the hits. It's fine. Our founding fathers took the hits. They weren't exactly uncontroversial.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, I was reading your bio and I was like, oh, holy smokes. I mean, you've been in the crosshairs of the Clintons. You've been in the crosshairs of a number of different folks. And I want to get to that in a moment, but I want to talk to you about really these boosters. But before I get there, I think it's really important that people understand your background. You've got an extensive background. You were born and raised in Philadelphia. I've got a business partner who's from Philadelphia. You guys just speak. There's no holds barred. So I appreciate that.
Son of a meat packer.
Son of a meat packer, no kidding. Okay, so you graduated with honors in political science, French literature from Duke University, which means that you're not a UNC fan, so I get that very loud and clear.
You're UNC?
Say again?
Did you go to UNC?
No, I did not go to UNC, so we're probably on good ground. So, but you got your law degree from Emory. You had a character that was developed after your personality on West Wing. So you've got a pretty extensive background. What did I leave out?
Well, nothing other than the fact that here are some of the things I've done in my career. And in my recent book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry, that you can get at freedomwatchusa.org and all major booksellers online. You know, I point out that I have scored significant victories throughout my life, but I barely have scratched the surface. I mean, maybe I slowed down in a small way the decline of this country as we see it today under Biden and Harris. I was the one who triggered the Chinagate scandal at Judicial Watch. We, at Freedom Watch, along with Sheriff Joe Arpaio, we killed legally the 5 million illegal aliens that were going to get amnesty. I enjoined the National Security Agency on 2 occasions from its mass surveillance. I can go on and on. But the bottom line is this, is that in the country today, there's very little recourse in our courts. And that's the thesis of my book, because the judges have become so compromised and corrupt on the federal branch that they wouldn't even give President Trump a hearing. I mean, regardless of the merits of his claims, the Supreme Court would not even give him a hearing because they're bought and paid for by special interests, by lobbyists, by corporations, by labor unions, big law firms, et cetera. And Jefferson predicted, I dedicated my book to him, that they would become federal judges, unelected, unaccountable to the people with lifetime tenure, despots and tyrants, causing us to have to shed the blood of patriots and tyrants yet again about every 20 years. He didn't want to see anybody hurt, neither do I, neither do you.
Yeah, right.
He predicted what was going to happen. And the situation with the military today, this is my little segue, is a powder keg that is about ready to explode on Biden and Harris and the left in particular, and the Republicans that don't do anything.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, this is, I think I want to start and just say, should we be worried? I mean, what the heck is going on in America? This is not when I raise my right hand to say that I would defend the Constitution from foreign and domestic enemies. I didn't really think that that would happen domestically. You mentioned a powder keg. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that the left, under Biden and Harris in particular, with little to no Republican opposition, and frankly, forget about them crowing about their victory the other night. I mean, they've had control of 3 branches of government on several occasions. They couldn't reform Obamacare. They couldn't balance the budget. And they knew, Republican leaders knew, because they got national security briefings, what was going to happen in Afghanistan. They could see that debacle. They wanted it to happen. They come on TV, you can see them, Lindsey Graham, others smiling. Now they've got a political advantage. But it wasn't for the servicemen, it wasn't for the American people, so they could acquire more power and more money. How many emails do you get every day asking for money?
Yeah.
So here's what the left has done. Number one, they've used COVID-19 to take total control over the American people. These vaccine mandates, quarantines at home, like it was like house arrest. And then they go to the Justice Department and turn that into a Gestapo to quell dissent, to go out and arrest people that were even peacefully in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. These federal judges, throw them in jail. They're running interference for the Biden-Harris regime and others. And then also what they did with parents, threatening parents over the school boards and critical race theory and teaching homosexuality and transgenderism to young kids. Then you've got dumping billions, if not trillions of dollars into the economy such that people don't even want to work. I mean, you can go down the street and see no one has workers. And that's destroying capitalism. That's exactly what they want to do. And then destroying the Judeo-Christian ethic, continued hundreds of millions of babies killed every year, or, in total with abortion, teaching kids that transsexualism is normal. And if your kid comes home and says, hey, I want to be a transsexual, you can get him an operation and make him a transsexual under Obamacare. You can get it for free. I heard that on NPR 2 weeks ago. I mean, that's unbelievable. And then, of course, the military.
Yeah.
They have disrespected, defiled the memory of our great fallen heroes who died for this country. And I believe it wasn't more than about 3 months ago that I think it was 140 retired generals and admirals sent a letter to Biden telling him he better shape up or ship out.
Yeah.
I believe that the military today, with what they're doing, these vaccine mandates, forcing them out of the military on top of all the disrespect and the people that died in Afghanistan and abandoning people in Afghanistan. I represent Gold Star parents, who gave their sons lives at Extortion 17 in Benghazi. I believe the military, I'm not advocating this, but I think we're quickly approaching a time when the rank and file, not the hacks that are, the joint chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Department of Defense, Secretary of Department of Defense, I don't think we're far away from them taking a little trip over to the White House and telling Biden his time is up. I really think we're almost there.
It's interesting. I just saw a headline today, and Larry, that's a little concerning for me because that means that we're going to be a nation in chaos. And I suppose some would argue that we're already there, but there's, I think the data is like 1% to 7% of our military has not been vaccinated yet. They have, refused the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine or boosters. I think something like 10,000 airmen. I mean, what's interesting to me is if we're at a nation that truly has social unrest, that we're dealing with a pandemic, et cetera, why at this point in our history would we be saying, listen, we're going to get rid of qualified men and women who can stand on the front lines and protect us, but we're going to get rid of them for the sake of a virus that, the data is less than 1%, death rate for most of those who are still serving in uniform. So are you saying that the end game really is this tyrannical takeover of our nation by those?
It's already happened. It's already happened. And the Republicans use it for political positioning, you see. How many times in the past have they had control of government and they did little to nothing? To them, it's just a game. They go on Fox News and they're smiling about what's happening. Tom Cotton's smiling about what happens. Lindsey Graham smiling about what's happening because they think it's going to be able to allow them to assert control. Well, Hillary Clinton said with regard to Benghazi, and I represent Charles Woods and Pat Smith, who are the parents of Ty Woods and Sean Smith, who died. Hillary Clinton said, what difference does it make? Well, that certainly didn't apply in the context of Benghazi, but we can perhaps use Hillary's saying in the context of electing Republicans. The American people need to rise up themselves right now. I'm advocating that we declare independence again and form a new government with leaders who will represent us, judges who are elected, not put in place with political campaign contributions and other forms of so-called legalized bribery, who aren't the yes men of the king. This is where we are today. And I think the military, which has been gored, its ox has been gored the most in the last several months. I believe the rank and file will support that. I believe they will protect the American people if we decide to go our own way. And I believe they will join us. In fact, many of them were in the Capitol on January 6th. A retired military person was shot at point blank range and killed. I don't see how anyone can sit there and watch what's going on and just watch Sean Hannity on Fox News and say, I've done all I need to do.
Yeah.
It's time for the American people to rise up. Enough is enough, and enough is too much, as Popeye used to say.
So, and I do actually remember that. So, Larry, when you say rise up, what do you mean by that? Do you mean it's time to go to the streets and, with the pitchforks and the guns and the everything? Or is it rise up and really get involved in school boards? Is it rise up, get involved? That stuff seems ineffective on both sides, though. So what do you mean by rise up?
It's just talk. It's just talk. And we elected, a governor in Virginia who's a Republican. If anybody could have beaten Terry McAuliffe. The guy's a complete criminal. Like, I came up against him at Judicial Watch. He launders money for the Clintons, had some below market loans, laundered money for McCabe's wife. I mean, that was not a great accomplishment. Yes, the people reacted, not in favor of the Republicans, but against the left, against what Biden and Harris are doing. It was a reaction. And if you think you can sit around, not you, Mike, but if the American people think they can sit around and wait for the Republicans to come and save us, forget it. They're not going to. And we don't have that kind of time. We don't. And that's only Congress. We've got judges here rubber stamping, throwing people in prison over January 6th for no reason at all before trial, because they watched Mike Lindell on some symposium on the internet. They have to stay in prison because they claim they're being threatened by people sending them emails. Defendants who had nothing to do with that are given the maximum sentence. The chief judge of the U.S. Court of the U.S. District Court of District of Columbia says this was the crime of the century. And then the military, which is on the side of the people, generally on the side of the people, their ox has been gored. They've been disrespected. Think about all the people that died in Iraq and Afghanistan now for no reason. No reason at all. Things are worse today than they were after 9/11 in many ways. So I think the military, I'm not advocating a coup d'etat. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we take a legal action. We have citizens grand juries at Freedom Watch. You can see them at freedomwatchusa.org. And we've indicted Biden and his son Hunter and James Biden for bribery from Communist China, Ukraine, and Russia. We've indicted Anthony Fauci for lying to the American people and collaborating the Wuhan lab with gain-of-function research. We've indicted Robert Mueller. Justice Scalia in 1992 said, the grand jury belongs to the American people. He wrote a majority opinion for the Supreme Court, not the three branches of government. As we did before we had a Justice Department in 1870, we can enforce the rule of law ourselves because we don't have judges, and we don't have congressmen, and we don't have senators who will do it. It's just becomes a game. It's the National League and the American League, the Republicans and the Democrats. They're both raising money hand over fist, acquiring more power, and they're all part of the same league, the same club. So what I'm saying is the military, I believe, will enforce the sentences that we get. I hope they will, and I'm imploring them, wait till you see what we do. We're actually trying these people in a real citizens court. They have a chance to defend themselves, a neutral jury. We will seek sentences and we'll seek to mete it out, not ourselves, not violently, but I will ask the military and the police to step in, law enforcement, to enforce the sentences. And that, even in California, the most leftist leaning of all states, it says that you can do a citizen's arrest if you know of someone committing a felony, but you ask the law enforcement to carry out the enforcement. What choice do we have? It's not going to happen at the ballot box. The ballot box is cooked. Look at the guy who ran Chittarelli or whatever his name is in New Jersey. He probably won. That's a mafia state. They probably dumped all kinds of ballots in at the end. It's corrupt. So, Mike, I know that, call this controversial. Okay, that's fine. But it wasn't controversial for our founding fathers. And King George III was Mother Teresa compared to the people who have seized control of this country. King George III was not a socialist. He was not a communist. He was not an atheist. He was not a radical of these other groups. He simply wanted to overtax us to pay for the rest of his empire. We
Yeah.
objected. He then sought to take our guns away, took our legal system away, and we declared independence and we won. But they did not, the colonialists did not declare war on the king. The king declared war on us. So if we form a new government, which I'm advocating that we do, we have a Third Continental Congress. We've started that process. You can see it at freedomwatchusa.org. If they move on us, we have our rights of self-defense. And I believe the military will back us. I think the military's had it. And now they're squeezing out people because they won't take a vaccine that doesn't even work.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the long, medium, and short-term effects are. And then you got to keep pumping the stuff into your body periodically, every 6 to 8 months. And now they're pushing it on kids. And we know that, it can inhibit a woman's right to give birth. That's not in dispute. So you're now pumping it into kids, particularly girls, who may never be able to have kids when they grow older. I mean, this is tyranny way beyond what we saw in 1776.
This is so amazing to me, Larry. I mean, this is, I want to give people the opportunity to support what it is you're doing. I think everybody needs to pick up your book. It Takes a Revolution. Forget the scandal industry. Even those that may not agree with you, for them to read this and get a different perspective, I think is pretty important. What can people do to support what you're doing, Larry?
Well, we do need the financial help. We're very small. We need to get bigger. Go to freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org, and contribute. And if you can help us out with $50 or more, I'll send you the book for free. But I also want you to be active. I don't want you to, and that's the subtitle of the book, Forget the Scandal Industry. Stop being entertained.
Yeah.
Get up off the couch, put the martini down, and get to work, because we can make a difference. And do not think that we have a political messiah. The Republicans are not our political messiah. Donald Trump is not our political messiah. Even if he had been reelected, and I believe he probably was, he would have been there only for 4 years. And this downward slide is getting worse and worse. And as of today, Mike, the left has assumed total control over this country. We're 90% gone. It's like we're laying on our back, gasping for air. Or another analogy, we're sitting on the deck of the Titanic listening to chamber music as the ship of state has hit the bottom of the sea. That's where we are. And if people don't realize that, then in my view, you don't care about your kids and grandkids. Think about what they're going to have to live in if you don't rise up now.
Yeah, we do have a responsibility, especially those that have grandkids or that are parents of children. That we do have a responsibility to leave the watch better than we received it. So, Larry, I just want to say thank you for being on the Military Wire. I am going to encourage people to pick up your book, that they donate to your cause if it aligns with what they believe. It Takes a Revolution. Forget the scandal industry. But Larry, thank you for this. It makes me think as well. And I want to thank you for being on the Military Wire.
And Mike, one more thing. If anybody in the military wants to join, we're preparing a class action with regard to forcing this vaccine down our throats. Let me know, because we'll put you in the case and it won't charge you anything.
Oh, that's great. That's good. That's good to know. Well, you heard it from Larry Klayman. Larry, again, thank you for being on the Military Wire. And for those who are looking to identify your next mission, purpose, identity, and maybe that next mission, purpose, identity is helping Larry save this country, it's time to get involved. You can reach out to us here at Operation Military Family, and certainly visit Larry's organization. Again, Larry, thanks for being on the Military Wire.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. You're great. Appreciate it.